times and not burn out? That was my fundamental research question during my master's studies. And what I found when I was doing that work is that kept referring to the importance of having a reflective practice. Yes, we need to get good rest and eat well and exercise and have peer support and do lots of good things for our own fortitude and well-being. But this caught my attention that having a reflective practice, and it often mentioned journaling, and this light bulb sort of went off where I was like, that's my secret sauce. That's what's helping me not burn out, is that I'm instinctively engaging in this journaling practice. And so that caused me to start looking more fully at, well, what's going on out there? If this is so helpful, like, what are the books written on it? Where's the research on the health benefits of journaling and the growth benefits of the practice? And I discovered all kinds of books and research articles on this writing wellness connection. And you can even see the title of some of these books, Writing to Heal, The Writing Cure. And the research showed that these are some of the proven health benefits from having a journaling practice. And the health benefits are across all dimensions of well-being: emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual. I won't read them all. You can see here things like feeling less stressed, having more calm and inner peace. There were studies that show improved immune functioning, reduced blood pressure, deeper sense of meaning and connection, and so forth. So it was really compelling to me that something as simple as taking time to sit down with a pen and paper or a computer and write out our thoughts and feelings can have this many wide-reaching benefits in our life. And so I started to really pay attention to it. And I was running workshops at the time on burnout prevention and integrating journaling into them. And soon the journaling just became more and more integrated into what I was doing. And it's very integrated into my work as a coach. So just in terms of some tips, it's always good to remember that whatever you write is right. Whatever your clients write is right. To have a sense of intention. Why are you writing? What do you hope to get out of it? Do you want to feel calmer? Do you want to have more clarity for decisions? Do you want to just have a moment to reflect and take time for yourself and integrate your experiences? To balance it out and write about thoughts and feelings, not just I did this, I did that, but actually go a little deeper with the writing. And then to take action on those insights that you gain from journaling. So I'm going to pause there with talking about journaling. And once again, take you through a guided experience of engaging with it. This time you'll write a little bit longer, and we'll have a two-step process, which I'll share with you. And when we're done doing our writing, we're going to look at how to integrate this, should you wish, into some of your coaching work. And of course, to hear how you might already be doing that, because many of you are already journal writers. Many of you may even bring it into your coaching work already. So we want to take a look at that. So I'm going to teach you by doing a 5-step journaling method that I created a number of years ago that I call life source writing. And I developed a workbook on the practice, and I use it inside of my coaching. And people can, learn it for themselves. It's not complicated. But it's intended as a bit of a roadmap, a bit of a where to start and where to end. Any practice that we might have in our lives and work, it has a form to it. It has some sort of structure. A practice meaning something we return to again and again to gain that benefit from it. So people might have a yoga practice, a prayer practice, a meditation practice, a walking in nature practice, a journaling practice. We can have all kinds of practices, as we all know, that we engage in. And for example, if you've ever been to a yoga class, you know that you don't just walk into the class and assume, warrior one position or whatever it might be. You walk in, you get your mat, you settle in, you connect with the breath, you begin gently. You come into that present moment awareness, you go more deeply into the practice and do the class, and you come out the other side into that shavasana or resting position and bring things to a close. I like to think of this along those lines, that we can bring the same surround to our writing practice. So in this case, the first step is to arrive, really bringing our mindful present moment awareness to what we're doing. The second is to relax. When we're relaxed, we're more able to write, we're more able to express ourselves creatively. And of course, the writing can help us relax. So there's this paradoxical relationship. The third step is to actually engage in the writing. Again, expressive writing, writing about thoughts and feelings. The fourth step is to reflect. And this is known as a feedback loop. And I find this to be a very powerful step in this practice. I find it to really fit well with coaching, where after someone does some writing, we pause and reflect and actually do some more writing. And that's where you can pull out some of that insight that comes from the writing that you've just done. And the last step is to affirm and to bring closure with a positive energy, positive intention to the backside of your writing. And so it gives it a beginning, middle, and an end. And you don't have to do this every time you journal, obviously, but if you think of your journaling practice as a practice and give it some form, it can really up-level the benefits that you get out of it. So I'm going to take you into doing this and give you a feel for it. So once again, you just need your pens and notebooks handy. I'm going to combine step 1 and 2 together with just a brief meditation. So once again, if you'd like to close your eyes or lower your gaze, just bring your attention to your breath. This life-giving force that's always moving through you in this moment, in this moment. Just allow yourself to relax. Give yourself permission to just be here now. Breathing in, and breathing out. On your next inhale, just notice the path your breath takes as it enters your body. Notice the pause and exhale. Just drop your shoulders a little bit, allow your belly to soften. On your next inhale, just imagine breathing anything in that you need in this moment. Maybe it's energy, comfort, creativity, curiosity, inspiration. Just imagine breathing in anything you might need in this moment, even without you needing to know what it is. Just allow that to fill every cell in your being. And on your exhale, just let go. Drop your shoulders a little bit more. Maybe let go of anything you don't need in this moment, even without you needing to know what that is. Just feel the energy of letting go. And come back to your breath. Come back to your awareness of this present moment. And when you're ready to open your eyes and pick up your pens, And I'm going to give you some prompts to pick from. Just pick one of these. When I slow down and relax, I notice. Right now, as a coach, my self-care is. I feel a sense of comfort and calm when. So we're just pointing your writing in the direction of your own well-being, your own restoration as a coach, as a person. And I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes this time, so a minute longer than when you wrote before. And enjoy. And 20 more seconds. And just wrap up the sentence that you're on. It's okay if it's not complete. You can always come back to it. And the next step of life source writing is this reflection step. So I invite you to just pick one of the two following reflective prompts. So what I notice about what I wrote is, or what I feel about what I wrote is. just pick one or the other and have a read over what you wrote, and then respond to this prompt, and you'll write for another 2 minutes. Another 20 seconds. And just wrap up the sentence that you're on. And now the last step of life source writing is this affirmation step. So you really just want to bring closure to what you just did. You've been writing for 5 minutes. So you might quietly say something to yourself like, I'm grateful for this time to write and reflect. Could be anything at all. Just a way of bringing that positive, grateful energy to the completion of your writing time. Okay, so that was a short experience with life source writing. Of course, you can make this your own. And I just want to give you a chance to debrief what that was like. And we'll use the chat for this. And if there's anyone who would like to share out loud, we're a small group, if you would like to, what was it like to do the journaling activity? And it'd be great to hear from someone. And to use the chat, and just a simple word. Journaling's all about words and the power of language. So I just want to get a feel for what that was like for you. Easy, hard, liked it, enjoyable, whatever it was. Just use the chat for a single word check-in on this would be great. And if anyone would like to share, that'd be nice too. And you can just come off your mic if you'd like to say what that was like for you. Just turn to the chat. Hillary, intentional, lovely, improved structure, relaxing and interesting. Thank you. You're welcome. Enlightening, interesting, pleasure, powerful. Okay. And just notice even those words, those debriefing words, how they land with you. Language has energy. And thank you for checking in that way. I'm going to keep moving us forward to take a look, unless there was someone who wanted to share. No pressure, just some space if anyone wanted to. Okay. So we're going to kind of go in left brain, right brain here as we engage in journaling and learn about journaling. I just want to offer this quote from a wonderful, it's a small book that a colleague and coaching colleague, Marlena Field, some of you may know her work. She does training, teaches fellow coaches body-centered coaching. I certified in her program, and she's a great coach here in BC. She actually lives on Salt Spring Island now. And her colleague Donna Martin, their book is called Simply Being, a reflective practice guide for helping professionals. And in it, they say reflective practice invites you to rediscover your creative potential and to find more ways to be nourished by what you do in work and in life. And of course, that's ultimately what we want, part of what we want for ourselves as coaches, and also for our clients, to have that sense of being nourished by what we're all doing in our work and in our lives. So journaling can help us do that. And in terms of journal coaching, why you might bring journaling into your coaching, if we think about the many things we're trying to cultivate through coaching, the whole purpose of it, some of these things are the very same things that journaling can cultivate. So we can deepen our learning and forward our action, can empower our clients. They have their own voice, they have their own inner wisdom, and it's one way to access it by engaging in journaling. People can gain perspective and clarity. They could tap into and really deepen their trust and confidence in their inner ways of knowing. So, for example, I think of the many life decisions I've made in my life because of my journaling practice. Things that have come out on the page repetitively enough that I see them as counsel. I see them as guidance for things that I can do in my life. So, for example, years ago, when I was married, we were separating and we were going for counseling, as couples who are separating might be trying to do to save their marriage. And we'd gone for these counseling sessions, and it was all very friendly and polite. We'd go for coffee, we'd go for counseling. It was all lovely. And at one of these counseling sessions, the counselor turned to me and said, was checking in how I was doing and wanted to know where I was at with things. And I just blurted out that I'm done. I really know I'm finished with this marriage. And his comment was, well, how can you be so sure? And I said, because I've seen it enough times in the pages of my journal, I just have to trust that this is what's right for me. And even as I was saying it, I was sort of startled, and I realized how true it was, that the journal is helping us see our own wisdom. I've made moves, I've started businesses, I've made relationship decisions. I've made so many decisions in my life because of having a journaling practice. And it gives us that information, but it has also helped me build confidence to take action on the insights that come. Think of how many times our clients have that impulse, that idea that something might be right for them, and then it's followed by all the reasons they can't do it. Journaling helps build our confidence that we can, in fact, listen to our inner voice and take action on it, and that good things can happen. Doesn't mean they'll all be easy. But this idea of tapping into our inner ways of knowing is a really important, and one of the reasons I consistently bring journaling into my coaching work. It can help us define and achieve our goals. What do we want to do? We can clear limiting beliefs, patterns that might be getting in the way. We can access that sense of inner strength. I've really used journaling during COVID to tap into resilience, to stay tethered to things like hope and optimism when there's so many, stressful and unsettling things that have been going on in this time and in our world. So how do you stay connected to your own inner resources, which is another thing we support our clients with? How have they got through difficult times before? What can their experiences offer them now as they move forward? I was just working with a leader who I do one-to-one coaching with, and she was saying she's just ready to quit, just put her hands up. It's so hard leading during all the turbulent elements of COVID. And I said, well, she's been a leader for over 20 years. I said, this probably isn't the first time you've had to deal with tough things as a leader. And so I engaged her in this journaling activity. I said, I just want you to make a list. What other tough times have you led and been a leader through and in? Granted, not a pandemic, none of us have done that, but what else? And she made this list in the journaling activity that included things like going through a merger, going through a death of staff on her team, sudden death, and having to support a team through that, and so forth. And so we used the journaling to help her access her inner strength in the present moment to tap into that in her leadership work now. So that's just an example. And of course, we really truly are the author of our own lives when we're journaling. We literally are writing down who we are, what we want, what we think about, what matters. So I invite you to think about, why do you use, or could you use, journaling within your coaching work with clients? And you'll have some time to talk about that together in a few minutes. But just in this moment, if you do bring it in, why do you do that? What might you use it for? What might that look like? So journal coaching to me is, the tool of using journaling in our coaching work, using all of our coaching, in the surround of using our coaching skills and knowledge, and to invite clients to journal. And, lots of people are told to journal, or it's suggested to them from coaches and counselors and doctors and best friends, but that can be pretty daunting. It can be daunting to just say, oh, you should journal. What are people supposed to write about? How do they even have a sense it can be helpful to them? What do they do if what comes out on the page isn't, is difficult, and so forth? So it can be helpful to use it in gentle ways to start. Things like taking a few minutes at the end of a coaching session and having your clients, you can do what we did, set a timer for a couple of minutes and just hold the space quietly while they write. You could ask them, just like you might, the questions you ask at the end of a coaching session, what had meaning to them, what had value, how might they use what they gained from the coaching session. Those end questions that we end coaching sessions with can be great journal prompts. And it just gives them a time to process and integrate versus having to speak out loud right away. They can just sit and reflect through the writing in the session. And then when they're done doing that, you can ask them to share any insights they had from that journaling time. And it could be a really powerful way to end a coaching session. And people don't have to share what they wrote, but sometimes people really want to. And so you can offer that if they'd like to share what they wrote, you'll be their listener. You can offer for them to, if maybe they want to just share a line or two of what they wrote, maybe they want to share what it was like to do the writing. You always want to give that element of choice. And you can use it inside of your individual coaching. You can use it in group coaching programs. The picture on the small picture there on the screen is a book that I co-edited last year, which we're really excited about. Eric Maisel, a creativity coach. He's authored over 50 books. We brought together over 50 contributing authors for transformational journaling for coaches, therapists, and clients, a complete guide to the benefits of personal writing. And this is a collection of ways that fellow coaches and others in the change fields have used journaling. So there's things on how journaling can benefit coaching and your clients, journaling to a more authentic life, all different types of journaling methodologies, mindfulness journaling, conflict coaching for journaling, creative journaling for self-care, and so forth. There's 51 chapters in the book, and it's available on Amazon.
Linda?
Yeah.
We did have a question in the chat of who is the author of the book.
Myself. Yeah. And Eric Maisel. We're the co-editors with 50 contributing authors. Yeah. That book came out last year by Routledge. And we have a new book coming out in June with Mango Publisher called The Great Book of Journaling, which is another collaborative project with 40 authors, contributing authors. And I just want to briefly share about using journaling in groups. I love using journaling in groups. I have group coaching programs. One is called Transformational Writing for Wellness Salon. It's a 6-week group coaching program. And I co-authored a book called Writing Alone Together, Journaling in a Circle of Women for Creativity, Compassion, and Connection. And it's for women because it's 3 women who wrote it, but I have lots of men who are in our groups as well. And so in a group, these are the 4 practices of writing alone together. People are writing freely, they're reading aloud if they wish, and most people do, listening deeply. So everyone else who's in the group, whether it's a workshop, a retreat, a group coaching program, the power of that witness and listening role is very impactful, as many of you who will do groups will know. So there's no critiquing of the writing, there's no talking about the writing, there is the receiving and listening and bearing witness to who that person is as they express through writing. And it's a very powerful process, and it's a perfect fit in coaching. So again, with this idea of deepening the learning and forwarding the action being our core goal as coaches, I often will leave that space, if people are engaged in journaling in the coaching, whether it's in a group or individually, to ask that question. So what, now what? What have they learned? What have they noticed? What have they become more aware of because of the journaling? And what action do they want to take as a result? So for example, that leader I just recently did that journaling activity with about, her strengths and difficult times in her leadership history. The action that she wanted to take was to actually have a team retreat. She realized that people were just so disconnected from having not worked in the office, and that part of why things were so hard for her as a leader was because they have been so hard for the staff, and that what would help. And she realized from the journaling that what would help is if they came together, that they hadn't actually done any restorative repairing work as a team. They just kind of got back to work and tried to do business as usual. And it's not business as usual. People need to reflect on this experience. What have they learned during it? And so she just pushed pause and made that the next thing she was going to put her attention on. So real tangible actions come from integrating. We're really just doing coaching, and we're letting the journaling be part of the process, which is a natural fit, because what do we do as coaches? We ask powerful questions, we help people gain those insights, and we help them set their goals and have accountability and take planned action. So one of the last things I want to say about this before we have some discussion together is that to keep that core value of fun present with journaling, and how you bring your own creativity to it, your own ideas, draw that out of your clients, because ultimately our learning and our growth happens when we're engaged and we're enjoying ourselves. So I hope you've enjoyed our time together and enjoyed some of the writing exercises. And I always like to come back to this idea that transformational journaling, I really believe that it helps us to nourish that quiet stillness, that wisdom that is within us, that's within our clients. And that's really the place where all things are possible. It helps to quiet all that noise that can kind of get in the way and clutter up the space we're trying to move forward in. So it really is something that can help us to be still and reflective and listen within. And we can do that, of course, through writing. And I've already shared with you about the book. And I want to let you know that I have a free gift that I set my timer to make sure I stayed on time. That is, I love creating journals, and this one is 20 journal prompts and affirmations to cultivate gratitude. And so there's lots of writing prompts in it, affirmations, ideas about gratitude journaling that you can use for yourself and with your clients. And I will put the link to that free gift in the chat after I stop sharing. Any questions, comments, musings? And then we'll go into some breakout groups. You can put them in the chat, or you can just talk to me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the, as far as like, I know that writing, there's a little bit more neuroscience behind it, like writing in a journal, but what about like just doing it digitally? What's the take on the difference?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a wonderful book called Your Brain on Ink. And it's written by Deborah Ross and I believe Kay Adams. And they look at the neuroscience of writing. And there are some studies that look at the difference between writing pen to paper and writing digitally. Most studies will show that the key part of the benefit comes from the self-expression itself. And there is one study that looks at, that's because there's pressure points in the side of our hand that get activated that actually are linked to emotional centers in the brain, that some people will advocate for that hand, pen and paper journaling, because we do process language differently depending on how we're working with it. So the best thing really is to do a bit both ways and just notice for yourself. A lot of people, work on computers, and a certain part of us comes forward in that medium, whereas we might be able to bring a different voice, pen to paper. And I've experimented myself a bit with, journaling apps and digital journaling, and just journal. Some people like it because they can do a password protected on their computer, and that's, a really viable and great way to journal. I still really love the pen to paper. It's that break away from the computer. It's that signal I'm taking that time for my own self-care and reflection. So it really is personal preference. And there is some research that, speaks to some of the reasons that one might want to lean towards pen to paper, and many of the benefits can come either way. I hope that helps.
I don't know if this is kind of related, but as far as the difference I've noticed, typing versus writing, right? When I look to write, I look to create, good penmanship, which helps with my emotional regulation, I've noticed.
Mhm.
Because the more excited I get, the sloppier I write. Whereas the better I'm able to process the emotion in and of itself, I can usually see it reflected in my handwriting when I'm journaling, which has helped me, regulate, emotions a little easier than actually typing it out. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
My
that's
experience.
wonderful. It's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Kim. Yeah, there's quite a bit of work done on journaling and self-regulation, and also mindfulness and journaling. There's, these combined practices, which is exciting too. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Comments, questions before we have a moment?
We did have a comment from Jennifer. She says, "Thank you. I'm excited to use the journal prompts. This has been such a great reminder about how powerful journeying can be for us."
Hey, thanks for reading that, Stacy. And I see that now there in the chat. Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.
I'm thinking too, Linda, how great it could be for team coaching, where you have maybe the introverts who maybe aren't going to speak up right away or maybe ever.
Yeah.
And so just kind of another avenue of encouraging everybody to participate in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used it a lot with teams, and it can be really helpful to just create that sense of safety as well, that while people are writing together, they're doing something meaningful together. And even silence is a voice, that it's okay to, choose what's shared, or if anything at all is shared. In teams, I often won't have people share what they wrote, but rather what did they get out of the writing, just to make it a little less threatening. And really those insights are what, can be meaningful to the team. Although there can be a lot of compassion built by actually witnessing each other's writing, just receiving it, people feel comfortable sharing. I've seen teams who've been in great conflict engage in our, I take them through a writing alone together process specific to what the purpose of the team coaching is. So I was working with one team, they were working on trust building. So we did some journaling around, well, what does trust look and feel like to them? Not with each other, just in life. And then they shared that writing, and you could just see people soften to each other. And it sort of did its own restorative process, just getting in that human reflective sharing space together. So it's really valuable in team coaching. And you may be familiar with Jennifer Britton's work on team and group coaching. She's a coach in Toronto, Canada, and has written books on group coaching. And she's actually a contributing author in this book. And so she really speaks to some of that, how journaling can be helpful in groups and teams if you're interested in, that in particular. She's a great resource.
Yeah. And I've found it interesting too, to even, and what are your thoughts on this? Like a co-creation of a piece too, like what is trust? And, you pass that around and everybody kind of adds to that. And you might not even end up knowing exactly who wrote what, but it was a co-written piece, right? It can be interesting to see what comes from that too.
Those can be wonderful. I've done that type of thing with team agreements. What do you think it's important to agree to as a team? And just everyone has a piece of paper and they pass it around in the circle and gets back, and then photocopy, and these team agreements drop out of the writing people did. Yeah. So you can, of course, get so creative. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Todd, should we segue to the breakout?
Yeah, I think because our numbers have reduced to a small enough group, I think we'll just stay together and just use this time to go through these discussion points. Linda, I didn't mention this before, but typically when we move into this area, you're welcome to go. But if we're, since we are staying together as a larger group and you want to stay, you're more than welcome to, but that's totally up to you, because I know that we have just said till we do the breakout, but that's totally up to you of what would work for you. But these are the questions that when I have an open discussion around, we can spend a little bit of time just introducing ourselves and